Skylar, Hoke is here, kicking off 2024, just as we ended 23 with Tom Jacobs here. Tom, fresh off a big win yesterday with Chris Kirk to kick off the PGA Tour season. Tom, how are we doing in the new year?
I mean, yeah, I feel a lot better based on yesterday. So that was fun. Let's try and get that over into the DP World Tour now. We had a couple of close hits in the fall season, if you like, in the DP World Tour. I mean, I guess it was the start of this season, right? Like it's already started, but it's so strange that the way they're doing it. Like the PGA Tour's gone to this calendar year again now, and I feel like the DP World Tour needs to follow suit. So that'll be interesting. Then, of course, we're gonna have to recap the sensitive subject of the winners over the last 6 events. But I think it's a really exciting way to kick off the season. The limited field event, Rory's here. I was surprised that Tyrrell and Fitzpatrick are both playing in Sony. I thought they'd come over and try and win this, but they didn't. I guess they might be back for one of the other Middle Eastern events, but it probably shows the kind of gravity, right, of playing on the PGA Tour now. Like they've realised that fully committing to that tour has probably benefited them in the long run. So I think we're going to see a bit more of that.
Totally. Yeah, agreed. I think the fall, staying on that subject, was definitely an interesting one. I loved the podcast we did with Brad and yourself, previewing guys we like. I think that's going to come into play a lot for the year. We definitely had some close calls. I mean, right off the bat, Akil Rama, almost, Tom, the 1,000 to 1 that we're chasing was a 36-hole leader, fully placed there for a big odds hit. I thought you had a great call out with somebody you previewed in Jesper Svensson. Kind of ticked my box at the, I think, second or third event. I think he's one of the longer hitters coming out, and he played extremely well. But ultimately, Liv did dominate, winning 5 of the 6 events, Burmeister twice, Louis Oosthuizen twice, and then Joaquin Niemann another time. And then the other standalone winner was Minwoo Lee. So we did not have a true DP World Tour winner in the fall. However, a lot of places, I'm curious, I saw Niemann is going to play one of the Dubai events. I don't know if it's the Rolex one or the one after that. But do these guys get more opportunities now, or I'll be curious because obviously they're talented.
I don't know what happens. Like I literally don't get it. Like I thought I understood it. I thought it was they were allowed to play in South Africa and Australia because they were co-sanctioned events, and then Niemann gets announced for this other one that I have no idea why he's playing. So I think it's interesting. It makes the tour better, I think, is ultimately the first thing that we should say. Like, it makes the fields better. He's playing the Dubai Desert Classic next week. I mean, so essentially I think he's got into it because he's won that event. That's the category he's in. So winners of the Race to Dubai ranking tournaments in 23-24. I'm guessing the idea is they literally can't stop them if they've won. I guess that's the rule. But then why is Oosthuizen not playing?
I guess that could just be personal.
They just don't want to play.
Because I guess Niemann's, I guess, quote unquote, motivation from Nosferatu was that trying to get back into the top 50 for the Masters, right? And I guess somebody like Usti has exemptions where Burmeister's right on that line. I don't think he got into the top 50 by the end of the year, but he could be somebody that could definitely make a run at these majors again too.
Yeah, and I think, look, I ultimately think at some point this deal is going to happen, right? And we're going to see these guys in all these tournaments eventually. I think that's probably why Jon Rahm's made the move. But yeah, I think for the time being, short term, I think we focus on the guys that we know what they're doing and what form they're in. We knew the players that played late in 2023 going into this, and I think that kind of forms what we're doing here in this first event.
Yep, agreed. And this first event is a different start to the year than we're familiar with. Last year, we had the match play event prepping for the Ryder Cup. This year, we are kicking off in Dubai again, but with a new event at a course that we have not seen on the DP World Tour. This will be the Dubai Invitational, smaller field, no cut, and it's the Dubai Creek Resort. The only events that I saw at this was like 2016 and 17 on the MENA Tour, where one guy had form, which was Todd Clements with a second place. Did you see any other times that they've teed it up here?
So I think they played one iteration of the Dubai Desert Classic here in like 1990 or something like that.
Okay.
Like
so maybe Thomas Bjorn has some
Westwood and Bjorn had played well there that week or something like that. So it's essentially irrelevant. But the guy that designed the course all those years ago was actually the one that designed the Emirates Golf Club for the Dubai Desert Classic. So if you like those sort of things, then look to kind of people that have played in Dubai Desert Classic well. I think that's definitely something to keep an eye on. And to be honest, even if that didn't ring true, like if you're not buying into those correlation things, just playing well in the Middle East always seems to serve people well regardless. So I would generally look, when it's a new event, I would just look to people that play well in the Middle East, play well at the start of the year, and focus on that. And that's kind of, it's not led to all of my picks because of some of the people that I have got in here, but it's certainly helped.
Totally. I mean, I think it's always fun, this swing of the year, getting going. We've definitely seen some guys pop up. Now, when we look at odds boards, we look at what we're seeing. To the point, there's a clear favorite, Rory McIlroy, 3-1, coming to, where he dominates this part of the world. I can't even, he's got at least, he won there last year is when he beat Patrick Reed, right? Back in Dubai.
Yep.
Back-to-back winners in the past. I mean, he's somebody who dominates over here, deservingly 3-1, skipping the Hawaii swing. Tommy Ladd is plus 650 or 6-1 most spots here. Nikolai kind of separates himself as the third tier, 12-1. Marank 16s before we're jumping almost 18-20 range for some of the next golfers. Did anybody catch your eye at the top of the board?
Look, I think I make bold calls all the time about Rory McIlroy. I'm not going to make one this week. Like, I think it's a very good chance that he goes on and wins it. Nikolai is obviously playing sort of the bit. We talked about this so many times, and I keep referencing it, but I do it because there's probably new listeners every now and then. But we were so focused on, like, Rasmus was way shorter than Nikolai for a long period of time, wasn't he, in the market? And we sort of said, look, the talent disparity is probably not there, and it's a case of Rasmus kind of hitting the ground running quicker. And then it's kind of flip flop now, like that. Nikolai is 6 points shorter than Rasmus, and I know he obviously played well getting into the Ryder Cup, Nikolai, but actually towards the end of 2023, Rasmus showed a lot of really good signs. So that was my kind of judgment at the top of the market, was I probably would have had the two Højgaards closer.
Yeah, it's always it's just going to be a coin flip year after year. It feels like at some point with one catching the better. I mean, Rasmus obviously the odd man out too when you got to the DP World Tour, PGA Tour cards coming over. So a lot to play. Arguably the best player left kind of on standalone on the DP World Tour, which he gets into the 18 range and above there. For me, Coley's article just, kind of came out where he said it was going to be boring, and he's straight up backing Rory at the threes that are out there. That's hard to argue. I mean, you do look at his swings over here. I mean, 5 of the last 6 events are top 6 finishes for him. Just pure domination when it comes to that. I'm not saying that I'm going to change my betting theory that we go after, especially when we get into some of the weaker field events. I think for this event, to me, I'm willing to keep our cards a little bit easier. Handful of guys similar to what we did at the Tour Championship or the Century last week, and kind of wade into the waters that way, which for me opens up some each way placement a little bit more down the board. Any more detail do you want to provide why Rasmus is kind of where you're kicking off?
Yeah, so look, Rasmus is my favourite pick. He's 18-1, which I actually think is a pretty decent price in a limited field. But look, he finished the year really strongly. He had that win at the Maiden Himland, which was pretty surprising because he had been injured and struggling. I think he was even injured that week and still managed to get the win. Finished 4th in France towards the end of this year, 6th at the Nedbank and 11th at the Tour Championship as well. Rounds of 65 and 66 at the Tour Championship, and his best round of the week came at the Nedbank on the Sunday. So to me, he's just found form at the right time. Now, the concern is, can he hold on to it? That's what you're betting on, right? Like, is Rory McIlroy going to come out the gate straight away? Does he need a warm up? And is he going to play better next week if he plays the Dubai Desert Classic, which I'm assuming he will be? You are guessing. Like, as much as we're going to put all these kind of stats and figures to it, it's hard to know who's going to come out the freshest. But I think someone like Rasmus and Nikolai, they're always going to come out fresh for the next 10 years, that they're ready to go straight away. And although Rasmus doesn't have the wins that Nikolai's got in the Middle East, he has finished 9th, 7th and 6th in recent starts in this part of the world, and he was actually a 36-hole leader at the Ras Al Khaimah last year, which is an event that Nikolai had won. So I think, generally speaking, they tend to play well in similar places, slightly different skill sets, maybe with Nikolai being a little bit more kind of bow and gouge. But I do think Rasmus is plenty solid enough, and I think I said in my preview that he's my guy that I think is the one that will lock up that PGA Tour card. So kicking off the year with him at 18-1.
Yep, totally can understand the argument. Adrian Meronk is also teeing up in that range, like we mentioned there, who has, I guess, success in this part of the world as well. But yeah, I think Rasmus's close to the year shows a lot of light to kick off 24. Thorbjørn Olesen caught my eye, and he's somebody that you were super keen on all of last year, deservingly so. I'm hoping we get him at some decent numbers on the PGA Tour, because I feel that type of game and upside is almost as transferable as anybody's that got a tour card. And there's some deep odds in Hawaii this week for these guys. I mean, Bob McIntyre, I'm seeing 150, 170s. Sammy Valimaki's 300 plus. There could be some opportunity when these guys kind of jump over that way and get some more starts and see the commitment there. I did see Yannick Paul is still stuck in Phoenix and has not made it to Dubai. His flight was canceled yesterday, so it's going to be a little jet lagged as he comes over to kick off his year. Jordan Smith and Kristen Lawrence was somebody I did not pull the trigger on, but man, as good as anybody outside of Sundays, pretty much that he could have easily walked away with probably 2, if not 3 victories if things kind of bounced his way a little bit more on the weekends there. But for me, I'm still starting the card a little bit deeper on. Is there anybody else in this range that you'd like to touch on?
No, I think, look, you covered the guys that I was going to mention. Like Jordan Smith came incredibly close for me, and you mentioned Tristan Lawrence there, whose form is just incredible coming in, right? I think Olesen I'm always going to be interested in, but I just felt if he has one bad week, one average week, his odds will quite inflate quite quickly. He seems quite variable with his odds. And like you said, like, you might get way better value of him just going over to America. And I don't think it's necessarily the opposition that bothers him. It's just how well he's playing on that week. So I'll take a chance that he's going to be a bit of a slow out the gate and then play well next week or the week after instead. So I think we're probably both in the same range now.
Yeah. So stateside, this golfer has now gotten to 40-1 with the places. But man, I am excited as anybody is about Dan Bradbury just about all the time, right? I think, on our preview show, we're very confident he is in the, discussion, if not a favorite to get a PGA Tour card this year. And his game is as transferable, I think, as anybody's when it comes to ball striking, iron play, and can you get the putter going pretty much. Now you have to score a little bit sometimes in Dubai. And what was interesting, again, I come back to the event. We talked about when Rory beat Reed last year there. Who was in that final group with Rory? It was Dan Bradbury, 3 starts after his first ever victory. So just still calming down from that, kind of whirlwind of a life change. Now, 40-1 with 5 places, they're not, giving us a generous gift anymore like they did with Dan Bradbury. But man, he said on Instagram that he had some really good prep in Spain leading up to this. Some guys might be showing up like Yannick might be, just kind of chilling, getting the way over there, where Dan Bradbury, I feel comfortable about his prep work, feel confident in his game, especially where we've seen him have success in this part of the world. And I'm going to take on the challengers at 40-1. Now you might get some 50s with top 5 separate bets too, if you prefer to do that. Some sites will do that, but 40-1 with a 5 place each way here in the States for me to kick it off.
Yeah, he's 50-1 is the biggest price I saw on Oz Checker in the States, right? And I think, like, if you want to go for broke and just go win only, that's not a bad thing to do either. But I think for me with Dan Bradbury, the really important point that you make there, and it's something that when I've spoken to golfers in the past on the podcast, like the prep work over winter for these English golfers can be so hard, because if they're based over here, they get a terrible winter. We've had so much rain, so much wind. We even had snow today. So, the fact that he's got away, played in Spain, he's noted that, he's pointed out, you've picked that up, he's just an incredible extra snippet there. And to kind of back up your point, I thought his sample size in the Middle East has been pretty impressive so far. Now, if you look at his Abu Dhabi debut last year, he only finished 60th, but he posted rounds of 67 in round 2 and 69 in round 4. And then a week later, as you pointed out, where he was in the final group in the Dubai Desert Classic, he shot second round 63, third round 68 to back it up to go into the final day in second place. Now, obviously, the disappointment was how he coped in that final round, but it was against Rory McIlroy. It was against Rory McIlroy, who was dueling with Patrick Reed. That comes with its own kind of circumstances, and it was so soon after his win, as you pointed out as well. And then he came to the DP World Tour Championship, at the end of the year and finished 17th, which again, nothing necessarily to write home about, but he improved as the week went on. You look at 3 top 6 finishes and 2 further top 17s his last 7 starts. He's probably one of, if not the most informed golfer in the field outside of the real top lot in Rory and Nicolai. And his ball striking is the best of anyone. So, and probably right up there in terms of irons with all of them. So I think for me, Dan Bradbury makes great value, as you do.
Yeah, I just love betting on Bradbury. I'm hoping, some of those big events. He's just somebody that I guess he's starting to find himself. I mean, he was right around that leaderboard with Homa and JT in South Africa to close out the year. Like getting those type of experiences, I think, is going to make it very transferable on a big stage for him at some point. And I'm not going to be scared of that.
No, I think he's someone that if he manages to sneak into a PGA or the Open, you look at him with deep odds, because I think he can do what Jordan Smith does, where he's had a couple of top 10s or top 12s in major, just purely because he hits the ball so well. So yeah, definitely look into that as the year goes on, unless of course we're completely wrong here and he struggles to 7 or 8 missed cuts going into the start of the year. But I don't think I think he's really good.
Yep, totally agree. If we go back into kind of where we're seeing Henny Duplessis after an okay swing down there, Campillo, Luton, Forrest, Guerrier, Manziel, Richard Manziel there, Xander Lombard after being very, I would say, highly tipped, as maybe per usual. Xander finds his way getting into there. I would say he played better than most with 4 consecutive top 25s, a T4 at that Joburg for him. But it seems a little bit of a different range that we're getting Antoine Rosner to kick off of the year. And I know you are keen on him this week too. So tell us why for Ros.
Yeah, I'm just going to give him a couple of chances at the start of the season. Like, I was really out on him. Like, I think it was this time last year or maybe a little bit further into the season, I was really heavily into him, backed him 3 or 4 times in a row, didn't really kind of pull through, and then he just went off the boil. All of a sudden, he's kind of picked that back up again. 3 of his last 5 starts, he's ranked inside the top 4 in strokes gained approach, and that's what you need to see from Rosner. As long as he's hitting his irons well, I'm pretty confident that the results will come. And look, he actually opened with a 62 at the Mauritius Open to lead before the break, and although he fell away, it wasn't necessarily devastating that he didn't kind of put the 4 rounds together. And then he was 15th the week before the Alfred Dunhill in South Africa. And he was actually second at the DP World Tour Championship after 36 holes and then fell away. So there is the concern that he's not putting the 4 rounds together, but that was a little bit like what brought me to Kirk in terms of course and current form, that these kind of initial round by round efforts eventually come good. And I think this is going to be the case with Rosner, who just looks a really reliable person. I mean, he's like Dan Bradbury with those irons and off the tee as well sometimes. Like he's just really not elite, I don't think yet, but he's as close to that as you get on the DP World Tour. So look, it's the case of putting 4 rounds together.
Yeah, but that's what we've been successful, I feel like, for a few years now is digging into this, right? And I think any DP World Tour better outside of, I mean, there's been some ridiculous runs by, some of our co-parts and friends, Michael and Bradley, Ben, obviously have consistently been able to. But I feel like our spikes in the DP World Tour come with places at odds or maybe some movement where we have kind of an in on somebody that we're just keen on overall. I think that's where it comes to, and we can kind of read some tea leaves, and those hits may not be as frequent, but pay off when they do. And if you get kind of that zoom out odds or zoom out form that you may see there with Roz, I'm a fan. So we'll continue on. I'm still going deeper as we go. Actually, there's 2 for me that I'm seeing now that get into the triple digits. Is there anybody before we get there that you wanted to kind of zoom in on?
So I haven't got any more picks in here. I looked at Connor Syme at 70-1. I looked at Jeff Winter at 100-1.
Winter have
But
been picking up some steam, it seems like.
yeah, but that was it. They were looked at and never really went any further with it. So I'm pretty comfortable that we'll go into the kind of ones that we do like in this 100-1 range, and kind of finish off there, I guess.
Yeah, I will start with Kelly Samoya, and Samoya was the winner of the Live Invitational. Samoya has just been a golfer that just is truly pops at what seems to be random times, what seems to be, for big scores, overall. I mean, qualifying in there. He did play the week before T25. Now, I mean, you see him hit the board with 3 top 10s in 2023. If you look into the 2022, 2 top 5s, 3 top 12s overall, one of those being a win, littered with miscuts, right? So yeah. I think Samoya, now if I look at the way he can go about things at this type of event, I mean, he's got to be living pressure free. Could you imagine golf now knowing you are a multimillionaire, right? Like, I mean, like a bad year on Live probably is a couple $1 million, right? Like that's
a bad year on Live is a extremely good year on the DBR Tour.
Right.
And I think that's the point, right? And I'm glad you've made it already. Like, it is that freedom that he's going to get. And now, look, he had won the Porsche European Open in 2022, but when you look at his career, he's never really been able to settle. And actually, when you look at a player, and you look at his record, he lost that playoff in 2019 to Sebastian Soderberg at the Crown Cercier. That was one opportunity to get his card and lock it up for a while. He then lost the Aphrodite Hills playoff to Callum Shinkwin. I think both of those times, those were to people that had won either their first or second events. I think both of them winning their maiden events, right? So they've kind of stolen that opportunity from him. And then he's gone on to win the Porsche European Open himself 2 years later after that. So it wouldn't be out of the realms of possibility that he had 3 wins in 4 years. And I know that's all ifs, buts and maybes, like he didn't win them. But it's funny to see how his career would have gone. And now, like you say, he's got this kind of back. I don't know how he's going to treat Liv. I don't know if he's treating it like, well, I've got this guaranteed money now. And whether he's going to be able to play these kind of DP World Tour events in between, if that's still the case. But essentially, he's going to go there and win a ton of money regardless. I don't know what team he's on or whether anything like that. I haven't looked. But yeah, I think ultimately, if you even strip that out, Sky, like let's completely take away the Liv thing altogether. Isn't he a player that just does well in the Middle East anyway?
So his best finishes, if we zoom out, I guess, it came a little bit of a time. His last 4 events in the Middle East, 3 of those are miscuts with a 38th. But if you look in prior to that, the 4 events before that were 12th, miscut, 8th, 4th. If you zoom out a little bit more, another top 25 there. You had 4th and 8th back-to-back years in Abu Dhabi. So, yeah, I just think we know the upside, pressure-free golf. The odds, I mean, right now, stateside, you get 100-1 with that top 5 each way. For me, that's worth a little bit of recent form. I mean, it's tough. I don't want to, and I'm going to do better, I think, this year at not zooming in on the most recent form. I think you do a very good job with correlation and different type of things. I'm going to do my best. But right now, I just feel a pop, a stress-free year kind of fits into what this opening event may bring.
And look, I think, like it's funny you talk about change tactics. Like last year, I think I tried to steer so far away from the course form that I've kind of been on for so long. Like, I'm going to focus on current form a bit more, and I'm going to make sure that I'm not getting caught up in all these correlations and all that sort of stuff. And then eventually one pays off for you again, like with the Chris Kirk thing and the Sony Open. And you think, okay, well, I didn't really need to abandon that, so I won't abandon that. When you look at Samoya in terms of his Middle Eastern form, he's got 4th at the Dubai Desert Classic, 12th at the Dubai Desert Classic, 16th for the Dubai Desert Classic. Well, they're all on those courses.
And I don't want to forget either. The Live event was in Abu Dhabi too.
Yeah. And then you think about the fact that he, you add on those Qatar Masters where he's been 3rd and 5th. He's basically his whole career has literally been playing well in the Middle East, and I don't even know if he potentially bases himself out of there. But he certainly plays some of his best golf from there. And I think he's a boom or bust type player, Samoya, but 100-1, you're getting those odds. I think it's actually quite incredible that you're getting 100-1. I didn't even think about it beforehand.
So, yeah, I love kind of landing there for him. We'll be super curious. I don't even know the requirements for him to like keep a live card too. Like those are the guys, I don't know, we don't have to have a live discussion for the millionth time, but those are the guys that like literally are changing their lives,
Yeah.
you know, that get this, and you have to root for them in some aspects because it was literally, you know, a way at a career that almost was unfathomable for somebody like Samoya to be able to do. So landing there, I'll pass to you because I do have one more I want to get on. So if you're going back to the well, Tom, somebody that we enjoy partaking in. So give us the deal here with your next selection.
Going back to the well with Sean Crocker, and look, I think this is probably that guilty Guido Migliozzi play that you do for, you know, every event, right? Like well, not every event, that's harsh, but like it.
It was time. It was a good 3-4 years in a row.
It was a long time. But I think for me, it's just one of those. The upside of Sean Crocker, I think, is still there, and maybe we're just wrong. Like maybe he's just never going to be the player that we project him to be. But I'm going to take a chance on it until I'm truly proven otherwise. He was 22nd in the Golf and Dubai Championship a few years ago. He was 14th in the DP World Tour Championship. I think that might have been his first or second go around there. 8th at the Dubai Championship. And actually, when you look at his current form, because you've got miscut 60 in his last 2 starts, you're probably put off, right? You missed the cut in the first Australia event. But when he was 60th in the Australian Open, he opened with a 66 to be 6th after round 1. And he shot a 65 in round 3 to be 6th going into the final round, despite shooting the second round 74. And then just capitulated with an 81 in the final round. I think we were on him that week.
We were.
Then, which was just brutal. He kind of collapsed from the each way, right? But then you go back even a couple of events before that, he was 9th in the Qatar Masters, 4th going into the final round. He likes this part of the world. He's shown that. He hasn't, again, been able to put together those 4 rounds that probably that I've held against Crocker here. But his irons are there. 4th, 18th, 8th, and 18th in 4 of his last 6 starts in strokes gained approach. 6th, 3rd, 7th, miscut 22 in those same 5 events for tee to green as well. So for me, when you see that with Sean Crocker, you just keep going to the well until his ball striking abandons him, because his short game is not good enough to kind of get him through events when his ball striking is not good. But when it is good, he can get around, and it's, you know, bonus time if he gets that kind of short game firing. So Sean Crocker would be my final pick. I think there was 120-1, but I think it might be 100-1 now, the biggest price for Crocker.
Let's see, stateside, 100 is the biggest price right now. For me to close out, I'm also landing on 100-1 for the last guy. And this kind of, when we went into area of the world, there's a clear standout, right? You see players that have played well here: Rory McIlroy, Nicolai Højgaard, Tommy Fleetwood, Adrian Meronk, Rasmus Højgaard, Bjorn Olesen. And there's an outlier inside those top 7 there when you look at it. And it's the name I skipped, which is Audrey Arnaus. Audrey Arnaus, 6th, 13th, miscut, 9th, miscut, 20th, 9th, 12th, 10th. His last appearance here since, I guess that would have been the fall of 21, I believe, if you look at his recent events. Now, normally I'm not somebody to just simply put stock into that. But what we started to see out of Audrey Arnaus was a little bit of life towards the end of the year, right? If you talked about Rosner's kind of recent form and some pops there, you know, if you look at Arnaus, so the finishes, you know, 32nd, not anything to really get totally excited about, but 19th after the first round, 23rd there in Joburg at the halfway point. If you go back, he had a 19th and a 14th previous to that. That 19th at the Andalusia Masters was 8th after 54 holes, with a 65 being on Saturday. Sunday just did not go in his favor. And then if you look at his 14th, 2 weeks before that, the Alfred Dunhill, which was the shortened event, he was first after 18 holes. Now, again, the rotation there, what is that really saying? I understand it's probably a top 10 at the standard if you adjust scores there. So some recent pops, going back to area in the world. Now, also, there's been some hot Audrey Arnaus rumors, right? Is he going to Rahm's team? Is that now off the table? Did he decide there was, now I don't pay for the Spanish news to get the insight on an article, but the tweet read that he was feeling very relaxed in a really good mental space and was openly talking about what was going on. So it seems like he's on a DP World Tour. He's in the next two events. Maybe Rahm's taking some bigger guys with him. I don't know. But I think that is a Tom Jacobs style selection. And it's an ode to 2024, hopefully to repeat what you just did with a triple-digit winner with Audrey Arnaus. This week is my final selection.
I think Arnaus is going to be a very popular pick this week, based on that kind of that rhythm of just the location form, which we love, right? We absolutely love it. Yep. And look, I think that the really harsh thing about Arnaus is I would say he finds a way to lose. But the good news is with the 100 to 1 or the 125 to 1 that you can get in some places, like there is each way value if you can do that over in the States for him, because he just places in Middle Eastern events, right? Like he just turns up consistently over and over again in this part of the world. We talk about just people feeling at ease and comfort in certain parts of the world, and that is him. And like you say, that I don't know if is it motivation to finalize this live move to Rahm? Is it motivation to prove that he's happy where he is and he's going to forge his career where he is? Whichever way you look at it, it feels like a motivational factor. Unless he just goes, unless it's okay, Rahm's cast him aside and he's going to be absolutely devastated he's not going. But I don't know that, and that's speculation. So I think there's definitely a certain element to kind of just a bit of motivation to kind of get on both tours and be in the way. I think eventually live is going to turn into this kind of additional tour where they maybe take up a few months of the season. Rory McIlroy talks about an interview over here that they might just take 2 or 3 months of the year and everyone can go and play in it. I think that's the kind of end goal. But until that happens, it is what it is. And for these players like Samoa, like Arnaus and people like that, it is a huge carrot. And certainly performing well in an event before that kicks off is the right way to go about it. Yeah,
that's just kind of what I'm hoping to see. He showed some life with irons to close the year. Now, there wasn't the best kind of strokes gained stats when we got out of South Africa, but really good. Even his missed cut, his short game, kind of, which does abandon him, and Qatar was not very good, but it looked like he was pretty decent iron-wise at the Joburg Open. So, similar to Crocker, I think when it's sky high, it can be sky high. We've kind of thought the world of that. Now 2023 had almost zero of it. But when I looked at historical events, he showed up here, I guess last year, miscut, and then he ripped off a 13th and a 6th, in Dubai. If you go the year before when he had kind of shown a little bit more promise, 21, he did end with some form and then, played well again here. If you went back to 21, 12th and 9th when he finished 2020, with, I guess, some better. I would say this is a mediocre form leading in compared to what he has in the past, but he has popped off of nothing before. And
we just don't know, as we said, about how his preparation could have been absolutely brilliant for the last 2 months, right? Yep. That his whole, he could have found something in his swing. Like the upside of someone at 100 and 120 to 1 is completely different when you're trying to guess about players at a 30, 40 to 1. I think that's probably why we've not had those kind of top tier picks. I know I've obviously gone there with Rasmus, but I just generally believe in him as a player all the way along. But then we've kind of skipped that kind of 25 to 33 to 1 range. We skipped the kind of 60 to 80 range because I think there's just so many question marks at this time of the year when really you could just go really volatile and take someone in triple digits. And this might be the first couple of weeks, so that's the last opportunity you've got to do that. But take it while you can. I guess the other interesting name on that train of thought, Spanish, plays well in Middle East. What about Pablo? Is the bubble burst with him? Like, has he just had his career year and it's never going to happen again? But like, he's a winner and a runner-up at Abu Dhabi. He's played well in this part of the world plenty of times.
Oh yeah, what is it, third Ras Al Khaimah? He hasn't missed a cut in the Middle East in 3 years.
I guess the thing is, it's never the Dubai Desert Classic, which I guess would probably be the one that you would hope it would be in. He's such a mercurial talent that if he won at 100 to 1, you'd have no, that you wouldn't be shocked. Totally. Okay, that's what Pablo Larrafa does. So yeah, interesting to see.
Yeah, man. It's tough. I mean, this event is a little bit more flying blind. The opening of the season could be a little bit more flying blind without any form and kind of relevancy. I mean, the only form that I do see out there is Pedro Figueiredo is winning on the Portugal Golf Tour. So when we see Pedro teeing it up, we know he's coming off a W.
He's going to win.
Yes.
To be honest, I thought you'd be. You mentioned it at the top of the show. I thought you'd be quite keen on the Todd Clements call.
Yeah.
At the 251, he's just shown nothing since that win, right? Like literally zero. So it's very hard to quantify. But then he didn't show anything going into that win. Like as long as the course suits, he could be a real danger. And as you said, he's done that kind of Minotaur form. But again, it's winning on the Minotaur versus or playing on the Minotaur versus playing on the DP World Tour. So
yeah, I feel that there's enough Dubai experience from other guys versus if we were in like a country that we haven't seen golf in and that was showing up, I would like it, you know. But I agree. Okay, so before we wrap up, make sure we'll give a shout out to our audio listeners. You can find us on Daily Fantasy Sports Picks and Bets, the Mix, available on all different podcast platforms. Again, shout out to Pat and Paul and the whole team on taking care of us again here in 24. Excited to bring it for another year for you guys. Hopefully we have some nappy factor going for us, Tom. You know, we got a little one who's now 3 months old and kind of settled into more of a routine here at home. So excited to get back into the golf swing for that and hopefully have a really big 2024. So Tom, can you review your selections one more time?
Yeah, and to clarify the nappy factor situation, that is Sky's new addition as opposed to him looking after me, which I think most people have to in my life. But yeah, summarising my picks, Rasmus Højgaard at 18-1, Dan Bradbury, I think he's 45, 40-1, 50-1 if you want to go all gung-ho win only. Antoine Rosner at 50-1, and then Sean Crocker at the 100-1 as well. Sky, over to you.
Yep. So Dan Bradbury with you. Let's have a dual winner to start it off. I'm going to take the 40s with the top 5 each way here in the States, and then a pair at 100-1, which is Audrey Arnas, and then Callie Samoya with those places too. So, like I said, we have Rolex event next week, staying in Dubai. We're really kicking it off. And this is where it's fun, where we get to kind of build out some profiles of guys that are now getting on the tour after they got their feet wet into fall swing. So, perfect. Well, we can close it out on that note, Tom. Thank you again. It's great to see you, and excited to have a big 2024 with everyone on board. Let's kick it off a year with a winner on both tours. How does that sound?
Yeah, that sounds good to me. And hopefully, I love this show, and I'd love to. I mean, obviously, I'm always happy to bag a winner wherever it is, but it always feels nice to do it on this show. DP World Tour, we get really excited about it. I think it's our passion, really, is this tour, right? So let's get some winners over the line, enjoy it. So many factors. I'm looking forward to a full field event next week as well. So plenty to look forward to. And here's to 2024.
Yep. Amen. You can find Tom at TomJacobs93. You can find me at Skyhook DFS. We'll be around all year long. So looking forward to it. And best of luck, everybody. Take care.